and welcome back to the Hot Lap, where we will be looking at the Singapore Grand Prix preview. But first is first, I promised my mum, and I guess this is to all mums, dads, granddads, grandmas that want to know when the Singapore Grand Prix starts. The important date and time is obviously this Sunday, September the 17th at 1 p.m. That's for the Singapore Grand Prix. Build up at 11:30 on Sky. If you're in Europe, you add an hour to the time, so it's going to be 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Now, interestingly, Singapore Grand Prix Practice 1 starts at 10:30 on the Friday, Practice 2 at 2, and on the Saturday we've got qualifying starting at 2 p.m. Build up from Sky at 1, Practice 3 at 10:30. But what is the weather, I can hear you say, for the Singapore Grand Prix? One, as you can see on Formula1.com, dry, wet, wet. But no, it's not that simple. It looks like dry, wet, wet. 20% chance of rain on the Friday. On the Saturday, we've got a 40% chance of rain. And on the Sunday, we have a 60% chance of rain. However, other sources have suggested that yes, there indeed will be rain. However, the rain is going to come before the race. Most likely, a lot of other sources have said the actual race won't be wet, which might be a shame. But at the moment, I think a lot of people look at rain like leaves on the track on the British train transport system in autumn, that all things are going to stop. Hopefully, when they see a puddle, they continue. But I completely understand under safety grounds. But it is embarrassing, and it's something that I think also Pirelli and Formula 1 are looking into to not happen again. But they're kind of powerless at the moment, if that's the case, with this current generation of cars. But in other news, Lewis slams Marco for Perez comments, but says he's not surprised. So Lewis has issued a resounding criticism of the comments Helmut Marko made about Sergio Perez, in which he confused his nationality but attributed his rocky performance to being South American. If you want a reminder of what he said, Marko pretty much said he experiences fluctuations in form, he's South African, and his mental focus isn't as consistent as it is with Max or Sebastian. So he confused his nationality and was very negative about Perez's heritage. Now Hamilton, who as we know has been the subject of insensitive comments from Nelson Piquet, who is or was, I think, is the father of Max's current girlfriend as well, unfortunately. And ahead of the Singapore Grand Prix, he said, it's completely unacceptable what he said. Whilst we say there's no room for any type of discrimination within the sport, which there should be no room for it, to have ladies and people in his position making comments like this is not good for us moving forward. I think it just highlights, firstly, the work that still needs to be done, but there are a lot of people in the background that really are trying to combat these sorts of things. But it's hard to manoeuvre when you have people at the top that have those mindsets that just stop us from progressing. So yeah, I'm not surprised, to be honest. Now, to be fair to Marko, he has apologised to Sergio Perez, and he's also apologised. He said, I would like to apologise for my offensive remark and want to make it absolutely clear that I do not believe that we can generalise about the people from any country, any race, any ethnicity. Okay, even though he did, but fair play, he apologised. We all make mistakes. He said, I was trying to make a point that Checo has fluctuated in his performance this year, but it was wrong to attribute, text messages ahoy, but it was wrong to attribute his cultural heritage. So, looking at that, fair enough. He has apologised, and to be fair, Perez has said they had a private conversation, he didn't take any offence to it, and it's all good. Some people might be like, oh no, Perez is being forced to apologise. I hope that's not the case. I don't think that's the case, but hopefully now we can all move on. And move on, we very much will, to the vital stats for the Singapore Grand Prix. As we know, 2008 was the first race at Singapore, and it was a controversial race, as we know, and as Felipe Massa knows, because he's currently basing that on his court case. Track length is 4.940 kilometres. It's one of the longer races of the year, or at least with the old section it was, because it was nearly 2 hours long. Most pole positions is Lewis Hamilton, Sebastian Vettel on 4 apiece, but it's Vettel who dominates the wins with 5. Trivia, if you want to go on a diet and lose weight, well, due to physical demands of both the climate and circuit, drivers can lose as much as 3 kilograms of body weight over the course of the race. There we go. I don't think I'll make it past turn 3, but hey ho. So the pole to turn 1 is 178 metres. Overtakes completed in 2022 is 71. Safety car probability is 100%. Virtual safety car 33%. I imagine that's pretty much based on the fact that when a car spins or goes out, unless it's massively away from the runoff, people are going to have to go on the track. When they have to go on the track, it's going to be a safety car, which is why it's a bit weird. There's only I guess that explains why there's only a 33% chance of a safety car. Pit stop time loss, quite a big one, 29.83 seconds. So here's the layout, and as you can see, we've got the sector 3. Turns 14 to 16 is pretty much a straight. Interestingly, though, the teams were debating whether to have a DRS zone there, and unfortunately, they decided no, because none of them could be unanimous. It'd be really interesting in these scenarios what team, if any, didn't vote for it or did vote for it. The voting. I do think we should know as fans. We have a right to know. So, Max Verstappen has hit back at graceless Mercedes. As you know, there's this tense relationship between the Mercedes camp and the Red Bull camp. And speaking in an FIA press conference today, he commented on the comments from both Lewis Hamilton and mainly Toto Wolff. Asked if he was disappointed by Wolff's comments, he said, "I'm not disappointed in that. They had a pretty bleep race, so probably he was still peed off with their performance. He also sounds like he's an employee of our team sometimes, but no, luckily not." Now, I think it's just important that you focus on your own team. That's what we do as well. That's what we did in the past as well, when we were behind them and when they were dominating. And I think you should be able to appreciate when a team is doing well, which I think we've done in the past because it worked also as a kind of inspiration. And he went, to see someone that dominant was very impressive at the time. And we knew that we had to try and work harder, try to be better and try to get on that level. Yes, to see someone that dominant. Let's have a look. I mean, we had a video about the Red Bull hypocrisy, didn't we, about wanting to quit F1. Here's another one. Red Bull threatened to quit F1. Ferrari block engine freeze. There was an engine freeze in the end. Red Bull will withdraw both their works teams and the AlphaTauri team of Formula 1 unless a freeze on engine development is introduced, according to a report by Auto in Sport. And, well, there we go. That was 18th of October 2020. So, a few years ago. And they threatened to withdraw from the end of Formula 1 at the 2021 season. Interestingly, there was an engine freeze. There was a chance to... Honda ended up knowing this engine freeze, put all their eggs in that basket, and they had a really good 2021 car because Red Bull were worried that they'll get left behind. So, yeah, they didn't really appreciate the domination there, did they? And they were a bit worried about other people. So in fairness, I just wanted to share that in the interest of fairness. I'm not trying to show shade, but it's equally with Toto Wolff, sour grapes. It's very easy to be gracious in victory, but not so much to be gracious in defeat. Just speak to Felipe Massa at the moment. But yeah, so I mean, there we go. If you want to see more, look at our Red Bull, our hypocrisy Red Bull. But no, they're not the only team to do it. All teams will have done that. It's just Christian Horner on the holier than thou, and I don't think anyone is ever holier than thou, especially in Formula 1. But let's end on a stunning Williams livery. Yes. The livery celebrates Williams' boldness. They put out a statement saying Williams Racing is delighted to unveil the bespoke Williams Racing Gulf Oil International Fan voted bolder than bold, which the team is showcasing at this year's Singapore Grand Prix, the Japanese Grand Prix, and the Qatar Grand Prix. I think that's the best special livery we've had this year, just about beating out the McLaren. It's a tough one though, isn't it? But look at that. It looks absolutely stunning, absolutely amazing. And I can't wait to see it in free practice 1, and we're going to get used to it because it's going to be here for the next 3 races, and hopefully for anyone that has the F1 2023 game, it's going to be in the game as well. Fantastic! I mean, look at that. The Golf livery, similar-ish, to the McLaren Golf livery, but not quite. But there we go. There's our Williams livery. So who's going to win the race? Who's it going to be? Who's going to be fastest? You can't really bet against Red Bull. And I think it's going to be really interesting who's behind. I'm kind of expecting it to be maybe between McLaren and Mercedes, but a lot is going to depend on these new flexible rules, these flexible wing rules, these flexible floor rules. Who's it going to hit the most? I mean, last year, the floor rule that came in around Spa, everyone thought it was going to hurt Red Bull the most. It didn't. It ended up hurting Ferrari the most. So tune in tomorrow for our practice podcast or video. Whether you like us on YouTube, we're on Spotify now as well. And this has been the Hot Lap. Like and subscribe. It means so much to us. And I'll speak to you soon.